Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. I'm going to jump right in here. I'm going to show you sort of like a cool kind of scale I've been using to sort of like get me out of like, when I'm feeling a little stale in a certain tonality. That tonality that I'm talking about that tends to get stale is the Dorian scale, which if you're like me and if you're in a band that does some improvising in sort of a rock setting, you find yourselves there all the time. And with good reason. It sounds great. If you don't know what the Dorian scale is, I guarantee you play over chords that contain the content of a Dorian scale. If you're ever in a minor key, like for instance A minor, and it goes to a 4 major chord, so like A minor to D major or D dominant 7th, Dorian is the scale that goes with those two chords. All right? And that scale is, if we were to take an A major scale, I know we're in A minor, but any scale that you have is really just a major scale that's been tampered with. So the way I think of a Dorian scale is that we took an A major scale, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, and A, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You take that scale and you lower the 3rd scale degree, which is C sharp, a half step, and you lower the 7th scale degree, which is G sharp, a half step. So instead of this, it's this. Right? Now, the full 2 octaves looks like this. If you've come this far, you probably know your Dorian scale already, but I'm going to kind of preface it for people who might not. So that's a Dorian scale. You also might do this without even knowing it's a Dorian scale, because if I take some of the more characteristic notes of that scale away, there's still the tried and true pentatonic scale under there, minor pentatonic. And you've probably had this happen before where you know your pentatonic scale and you're playing. And one day you kind of realize that this note sounds really good. And then you also realize that most of the time, but not always, this note sounds really good. Okay? When you add those 2 notes, you're turning it into a Dorian scale, whether or not you even think of it that way. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a footing as to, okay, this is what Rob's talking about. That's your Dorian scale. Either you already know what a Dorian scale is, or almost surely you play Dorian stuff and don't even think of it as Dorian. It's just sound. So today, though, I want to talk about another slight variation that I've been starting to make on that scale to keep it a little more interesting to me and give it a little darker and creepier of a sound that's fun to play around with. And I kind of discovered this scale in quarantine. I guess I knew about it from college and all this stuff, but I never thought it was useful. But I'm kind of into it right now. So what that scale is, like I said before, a Dorian scale is like we took a major scale and flatted our 3rd and our 7th. So the formula, if you want to think of it that way, for a Dorian scale is that you take a major scale, you flat your 3rd and your 7th, and voila, it turns into a Dorian scale. One change I like to make to that scale, if I'm starting to get a little bored, is that as well as doing those 2 things, flatting the 3rd and flatting the 7th, I'll also sharp the 4th scale degree. So it becomes this: A1, B2, C natural, flat 3, D sharp, sharp 4, so I took what would normally be D natural and I made it D sharp, E5, F sharp 6, G natural, flat 7, and A, back to 1 again. So you get this. So that doesn't sound like much on its own. If you want a little more like 2 octave useful of a fingering, I would play this. So let's hear what that sounds like in context. I'm going to make a little loop over a common kind of A minor vamp. chorus that we're all used to. Okay, we're all used to that sound, or you can play blues like. Okay, so that all sounds good, but now I'm going to use this new alternative, which I would just call it, label it by its formula. I would call it Dorian sharp 4. Because it's a Dorian scale, but with also a sharp 4th scale degree. So let's mess around with that and see what it sounds like. I think that's a really cool alternative if used sparingly. You don't want to use that all the time, you know, I mean, people might go nuts. But I really love that sound. So one thing, first I want to talk about maybe something to be wary of, is that what I'm talking about is not that you have a regular 4th and a sharp 4th. That would be like a blues scale. That has your regular plain old 4th and your sharp 4th. This isn't that. We're basically taking a regular 4th and moving it up to D sharp. This is no longer there. That's what actually makes it sort of have an identity to me. If I don't do that, if I play D naturals and D sharps, it kind of just sounds like I'm playing blues. Like, we already do that all the time. The movement of it is what makes it have an identity, because all of a sudden from your flat 3rd, which in this key is C, we have a really weird leap of a minor 3rd. That's what gives it a neat sound to me, is that in all our conventional modes, there is only no bigger than a whole step leap from one note to the next in the scale. And then all of a sudden, when we have this scale, there's a minor 3rd leap. So that to me is what gives it its identity. Now, the reason why I feel like I can get away with this and why it still sounds good in kind of a normal rock situation, to my ears at least, is precisely because we use the A Dorian scale over that progression all the time. Match made in heaven, right? Now, along with that, as guitar players, we'll use the blues scale all day over that, which has that D sharp note in it. Okay? So I can justify that D sharp note because it's in the anatomy of a blues scale, which we would more than be okay with using over a situation like this. Really all I'm doing is eliminating the regular 4th to give it a spookier sound. Pretty cool, right? So to me, that creates this nice sort of spooky atmosphere that can sort of jumpstart the scale a little bit if you're getting tired of the sound of it. And it sort of has this cool place in it where on 2 strings in a row, you can do this minor 3rd shape, and on this one too. Oh, sorry, not that one, but you can go. Kind of a cool lick there. Right? So just that physically offers some kind of neat vocabulary in there. Now, I guess for lastly, I'd like to maybe like trace back where this scale comes from so that it's not just, I don't want to claim that it's some invention of mine. It's not. It's just in the air in the science of music. So let's talk about this for a second. A regular plain old Dorian scale, which in this case is A Dorian. I'm going to talk as if you already know your major scale modes here. So if any of you don't know your regular modes yet, maybe just you can turn this off and have fun with the scale I just showed you. But otherwise, you're still here, let's talk about it. So a regular plain old Dorian scale, A Dorian, that secretly is just the same exact thing as a G major scale. A Dorian scale is just a major scale starting on the second scale degree of it. So if we take a G major scale and just start on the second note of it, that generates an A Dorian scale, right? So in a nutshell, A Dorian and G major are the same exact thing, okay? Now, fun fact is that other scales have their own sets of modes. And that's where this Dorian sharp 4 scale comes from. So the scale in question that it comes from is harmonic minor. If you don't know harmonic minor, it goes like this. It's a minor scale. It's like we took a natural minor scale, which is this, and put a major 7th in it. So 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, major 7th, back to 1 again. Very classical sounding. Okay? I'm not going to go into every single detail of this, but that scale, harmonic minor, has its own modes that it generates. With the same concept, where you just start on a different scale degree of that scale, and voila, it gives you a whole new mode. Oh, actually, here we go, is that I'm wrong. And I'm going to correct it right now before I go any further. Let's keep talking in A. So the scale that's been in question is A Dorian sharp 4. Okay, so that scale is the 4th mode of some harmonic minor key. I played it a second ago in G. That was incorrect, I'm wrong. But I'm not going to go back and do this video over because I'm already 13 minutes in, and I'm human. I make mistakes. So I'm going to play that same harmonic minor scale I did a second ago, but in the key of E. That's harmonic minor. A minor scale with a major 7th, okay? Or you can think of it, if we're, like I said earlier, every scale in question kind of used to be a major scale. You can think of it that it's a major scale that has had its 3rd and its 6th flatted. So 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, plain old major 7 that comes from a major scale. That's the most important part of the scale. And back to 1 again. Okay, so the 4th mode of that, if I play that as the same notes that are in that scale but start on A, it gives me this. A1, B2, C natural flat 3, D sharp, sharp 4, E5, F sharp 6, G natural flat 7, and A, 1 again. And voila, that gives us an A Dorian sharp 4 scale. So I'm sort of getting convoluted here probably, but basically, A Dorian sharp 4 is the same exact notes as E harmonic minor. That's its parent mode. It's really just that in disguise, right? Now, I don't think you really need to think of it that way. I think you can just forget that piece of knowledge and just use it as a standalone scale when you're in a minor key and want to play something a little creepier sounding. But I just wanted to share that bit of like DNA backtracking with you as upon where it comes from, so that maybe down the line you can make a little more use of that. In fact, a good thing to do is that if you know that harmonic minor scale, is to just, whenever you're in a minor key and you want to use that scale, trace back whatever Dorian sharp 4 you're using to its parent harmonic minor scale. So like, let's say we're in C Dorian now, and we want to use that scale, C Dorian sharp 4. All you have to think of is, okay, well, what is C the fourth of? Because Dorian sharp 4 is the fourth mode of some harmonic minor scale. I always think of this. If I was playing a blues and C was my 4 chord, what key would I be playing blues in? Oh, it would be G. So that means that C Dorian sharp 4 scale is the same thing as G harmonic minor. Now that's nice to know, because that means that you can, if you can quickly determine that, then that's another position you can use to get out of that basic one. So something like this. Make another loop here. So let's say I'm using that sharp 4 Dorian scale. Maybe I'm a little tired of living there, but I know that that scale is the same thing as G harmonic minor, so I can go down here and just play in G harmonic minor to my heart's content. So, there you go. I think that's a pretty neat scale to explore. I think it's actually pretty useful. You know, I think it's not so alien that you're completely departing from, you know, the core sound. It's just a little creepier. And I think it's a neat tool that I'm kind of having fun using lately. So, give it a shot. Have fun with it. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.